Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and we are almost finished this latest international dead zone, or the international window as most people call it. We've been trying to fill the void here on the channel by looking at the key departments of the pitch so far, with 7 games into the season, with a perfect bill of health, only 1 goal conceded, all games won, and a Champions League campaign that's 2 games in that's already been an extreme rollercoaster of highs and lows and not really much in between. And in the video today, we're going to have that kind of more bird's eye view. We're going to zoom out a little bit and look at the Celtic squad as a whole as we find it. At any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We are pushing for 10,000 subscribers and we cannot do that without your support. And get into the comment section of this one and let me know, like, during this first opening segment of the season, looking at the whole squad as we find it now, who is your biggest surprise in terms of the contribution that they've made on the pitch? Because there is stories, there is a lot of high performing players really in all different departments, and especially this international window, maybe giving people some time to reflect and see Liam Scales in his glory perhaps as well. I don't know. I think it'll be really interesting to see all the comments that come in on this one, is who's been the surprise package for you so far in this opening section of the season. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Because there is a little bit of deja vu having a look at the squad on the depth chart as it is now from when we finished the transfer window. Having a look at all the business when the dust had settled, what were we left with and how was the squad balanced out. And, you know, overall I still feel the same kind of confidence in the overall squad makeup now that I had at the end of the transfer window compared to maybe like this time last year, for example, where it did feel that there was still some imbalance and some obvious holes in the squad. But it feels like pretty much everything has been addressed to some extent, you know, and the extent is maybe some of the parts of it we can talk about. Schmeichel for me has been one of the stories of the season. I think it was definitely something that was met with mixed emotions when the transfer came through, because it was a free transfer. He's like the same age as Joe Hart, so it's not really a long-term solution or whatever. But all the qualities and all the pros for doing a transfer like this have came in for me. You know, I think the Dortmund game, you can forgive him that for any of the individual mistimings or missteps or anything like that for some of the stuff that came his way on that night. But otherwise, like I say, every pro you would associate with signing Kasper Schmeichel, what it would give you and potentially how good it could be for you, have been absolutely smashed. And I think for his inclusion in the squad helps lift the rest of the defensive standing that we've had so far this year. We have been an absolute clean sheet machine, and Celtic haven't been that way for a long time. Yes, we do get clean sheets, we don't concede a lot of goals versus the opposition, but not since Fraser Foster have we been like a clean sheet, you know, machine as it were at the back. And that is in no small part to the goalkeeper. I think Schmeichel's been a raging success so far this year, and I think you've seen the emergence or the further evolution of Liam Scales, or Scaldini as we refer to him on this channel. Carter Vickers, we all know what he brings, of course, and between the likes of Alistair Johnson and Taylor, for the most part, like, we have seen an exemplary performance, especially domestically. In terms of defensively, there's been like no mistakes, there's been not a ball dropped, and overall, like, the roles and the responsibilities that everyone kind of shares and dovetails with, and as they evolve in the game, depending on where different players end up with the ball, off the ball, what type of threat are we playing against? Is it like a pacey wide person on the counter attack? Is it a big target man for a flick on the counter attack? You know, I think the defensive effort that we've put in this year has been levels above the last couple of seasons without a shadow of a doubt. But as we have seen so far already, all the stories again continue to be on the left side of the defence, and a few different guises here. We did a video last week looking specifically deep dive into the left back department and what the potential longer term solution for that could be. If you're interested in that type of chat, it will be linked at the end of this video, so you can just go and watch that right after this. But Greg Taylor for me domestically looked like he was on for his best season for us. I think this role that he's developed and really crafted into his own domestically, he has mastered. But sadly, from, you know, Borussia Dortmund, there was a catalogue of errors, but I really do think one thing we did see was Greg Taylor hitting off maybe that bit of a glass ceiling, sadly, that he's shown already in the Celtic career. So that was just a bit of an unfortunate home truth to kind of maybe see in that game as much as anything else. I think a lot of us have been impressed and are quite hopeful around the prospects of Valley continuing on his form and all the rest of it. And I think now that we have like a genuine left back department, all of a sudden with Mitchell framing the B team also, like, it just feels like we're better covered. And domestically, you know, the form we've got, there's no real reason that with this defence that it shouldn't continue for a very long time. You know, I think like we've got the beating of so many attacks in the league with just any above average strength combination now across defence, you know, because if Trusty has to come in for Carter Vickers like he's done already, like domestically, he can do that. I'm not really too worried about that at all. Whereas with Naroki, there is always question marks around can he do it and his fitness. Same with Stephen Welsh to maybe a greater extent, I suppose. But he is left-footed, and he should be able to now finally fill in for Scales. And if you had to replace Scales with Trusty in the worst-case scenario, not because Trusty's better, they're still very much on an even keel for me in terms of their Celtic careers, because Trusty's still got something to prove, and we don't write him off at all. But if this was the situation, you would not be worried. You wouldn't be thinking, we're playing Welsh or Naroki there, and again, question marks galore around them. So from centre back, for left back, and right back, as we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years, like Ralston's top dollar at doing this job share with Alistair Johnson on the right hand side. So again, the defence, I think, is missing some stuff, maybe going forward and into future windows, which again we've spoke about in other videos you can check out for more detail. But when we have a look at the midfield, like, again, we were all quite hopeful that the midfield was going to maintain pace, was going to maintain level with what we had last year, because bringing in extra players to fill the void of a player that's left, you would think, okay, well, domestically we should still be able to build the web that we like to play on the ball, and we should be able to still get Hatate into dangerous positions around the edge of the box. We should be able to bring somebody into this side of the pitch who can be very effective at breaking the lines and causing that overload, and especially in this area of the final third, that's where O'Reilly was most effective, with long shots, with crashing the box with 1-2s, with pinging one from the edge, even just peeling out here and getting a cross off. He was exemplary. He hit incredible numbers. You don't expect people can bring that level of end product to the party right away, but you expect, a good level of maintaining the status quo to a certain extent. And I think domestically, we've seen Engels definitely has the ability to do that. He started like an absolute house on fire, and it feels maybe like the last week that we had there before the international break, it was just maybe a bit of, not necessarily reality setting in, but just a little bit of the honeymoon period maybe wearing off for him. It's quite an arduous week, going from Scotland to Germany, getting blasted 7-1 like we did, and then coming back to Glasgow, then up in the bus to Dingwall or however they get up there. Don't think they fly, do they? Oh, they wouldn't fly. I think we'd hear about it. So happy to forgive him that. Every league has its own kind of little travel quirks that people need to get used to, whether it's long distance flight, changes of altitude, all sorts of crazy stuff, difference in temperature. With us, it's the long bus up north if you've got Inverness or Dingwall for Ross County. But I do think Hatate has kind of played within himself a little bit this year, and it's maybe just that part of, again, his part of the midfield being the question mark, because don't forget, like, Rodgers last year bombed him out for Turnbull for a large opening segment of last season, and obviously the that chapter's been written and we don't need to go into it. But again, that area of the pitch is up for question. People are discussing, should it be Rio? Should O'Bernardo come in here? Should maybe McKeown get a starting berth now all of a sudden? Odenholm is nowhere near the picture, and obviously we all know McGregor's been great this year, scoring like he's never scored before. He's won Player of the Month, which he's never done before, much to his surprise and realisation, I think, at that moment. And, like, he's doing great overall in terms of domestically in that metronome kind of playmaker position where he really has made it his own. But it feels like the midfield, like, it's still got something missing again, it still feels like, we've not totally moved on from post O'Reilly, which is kind of fine, to be honest with you. At this stage, it's only natural. And also, again, we've just got a question mark over this side of the pitch as well, what's happening. So it definitely just leaves the midfield still as an unfinished part of business when it comes to the transfer politics. Although we're all buzzing about McKeown, domestically we all believe he can definitely carry some water for us and find the back of the net and give a lot of energy and, change the tide of a game. And, I was I was on the Huddle Breakdown this week with Alan, Juco James and Martin over there. And we just had the Sligo Rovers friendly. And, we were chatting about McKeown being the captain in that game. And, you all know how it went, obviously, with last-minute winners from Lewis Palma and whatnot. But, like, that could be he could be another Ralston, another Taylor, another one of these guys in the changing room. But he's actually, like, a first-team contributor. As much as, like, Ralston, maybe he's up for debate if you'd call him a first-team contributor. I certainly would. Taylor's obviously, at the moment, best 11. But somebody else that fills that personality in the club, in the squad, and they're always going to be here. They're not angling for a move away every 2 minutes, or they're not changing agent, and all that kind of caper. You've got like a core squad dynamic on the go there. It's important you've got first team contributors that can do that, and it does feel that McKeown, along with Bernardo, by the way, who I think is, he's a great player, he's fine, but I think a lot of people just kind of get him a little bit wrong in terms of what his qualities are and, where you get the best out of him. And really, how to fix this problem and how to, square the circle, or, whatever the saying is for this one, is kind of still up for debate. How much are we going to spend? Where does the manager and the club actually think is the is the problem in midfield, or where is the enhancement that could be made? What sort of profile, what sort of age, how much would they, budget, how much would they be spending on it? A lot of that is really unknown and probably up for discussion as well, depending on your opinion on, all these individuals that we've got in front of us. But absolutely, no matter what your opinion is, just no matter what, full stop. We, in the January window, in the summer, whatever, we have to go out and sign Lennon Miller. This guy broke onto the scene, obviously, at age 16, 17, and showed a lot of promise early on. He did really good against us, did really good against them last year, and this year he has taken his game to a new level. This is all of his performances, this is all of his ratings out of 100 throughout his short career that it is to this point. And when you see the contribution that he's making for Motherwell, particularly this season, which is from the Ross County game here onwards, it is growing week on week. You can see his confidence growing week on week, and the position that he's playing quite a lot of the time is in a very front foot, attack-minded, attack midfield position, but he's still got the energy and legs to, get into shape, be a part of the team, and do everything that's required in midfield. And you see these players crop up across world football often enough, I would say, when you're kind of watching all the different leagues and competitions that are kind of televised these days. And it takes 2 minutes before the dominant team in that league buy them, loan them back to where they came from, loan them out to somewhere in Europe, or do something like that, and wait for an opportunity in the squad to come where they can just walk in as a ready-made replacement. That's clubs of our kind of standing, of course, in terms of financially, the ones that don't go out and spend 30, 40, 50 million pound on players. They're ideally trying to find a guy they can sell for that amount of money. But you also see the teams that do spend that amount of money treating high-value youth prospects in that way as well, because the youth prospects that are coming through are the future of things. And no matter what you think of the Celtic midfield and who could become what in a couple of years, this guy at the age of 18 at the moment has still got so far left to go in his career. And if he was to move anywhere but Celtic at this point, I think, number one, he's going to go right to the top. He looks like a top quality professional already at this age, but it is going to be a massive opportunity miss for us, and a player that would fit our play style, would fit into our midfield. And I think it is important that you would know he would be able to be our first team contributor when you bring him into the squad. But I think easily leaving him at Motherwell for the immediate term, and then you never know, you try and maybe get him into the squad if someone else is sold, and if not, again, like a big proper club would do, you already line up a very good loan that will move his career on, will excite him, with the opportunity on the horizon that when he finishes that loan, he comes back and he's a star player for us, winning league titles, playing in the Champions League, getting into the Scotland team, which is a mild crime against football that he's not even made a squad yet. And again, there's examples of this all across European and world football, of the big proper teams in the league, the big established powerhouses, just making sure that they're getting the best local talent they possibly can for all the obvious reasons that goes around it. And it's hard to imagine that we've not made contact, or we wouldn't do something to try and, get those negotiations going, or maybe we've got an alert with them if they do get a fax from somebody else in Europe or whatever. Because, by the way, it won't be a secret that he's doing this, and he won't stay like a hidden gem in Scotland for long. There's been a lot of success of Scottish players leaving and going to the continent, so over the last 2 or 3 years. And Motherwell have actually sold players into Austria already, of course, and had some interesting transfer dealings with some pretty high profile clubs, so it's not like them themselves are not connected into the real world football world. And opportunities like this only take 1 minute and they're gone from you. And it just feels like this would just be an incredible missed opportunity for me, no matter what you think of the midfield dynamic that we have and what we need going forward. But in the forward areas, it's a bit of a different thing altogether, because Lewis Palma, of course, gets his hat-trick against Sligo, wins the game in the last 2 minutes. Like he bloody obviously would, wouldn't he? Because he is just, like, he's technically fantastic, like passing it, shooting it, crossing. Like, I described him on a recent video as like a really bad version of David Beckham. He can't even tackle or be strong on the ball. Like Beckham could play centre mid, which he did eventually throughout the back end of his career, of course. Palma probably should play more centrally, but he doesn't show you any of the qualities even out in the wide areas. He's only got one man to deal with, never mind being in the middle of the mixer, and you've got people coming at you from all directions. So it's really hard to really gauge where he's at. It does feel like his time is over, and we'll maybe see a January move for him. And Yang, I think, again, similar, although busted his gut against Sligo and all the rest of it. It does feel, but with them two, and then Forrest being the other second stringer, and again, Forrest definitely comes back into this gang that we spoke about already, that make the club atmosphere, the personality of the changing room, as it were. That's fine and all well and good, but that he's not pushing first team. He's not going to get better. That's part of the thing. It's just again, one of these sad truths. He's great. He's fantastic for us domestically. Even if we have to in a time of need in Europe, you know, in the right situation, you know, you wouldn't be too disappointed to see Forrest compared to some of the other options that we maybe have in the squad or have had in the past, if you get me. But because that is all the guys in white here, this is all the guys that are the second string, an attacking wide player to push the level, to cover for injury, to cover for any outgoing transfers or anything like that, is definitely something that Celtic should be looking at. And I think with the kind of, I don't know if I want to say the precedent that we've set, but certainly with the change of expectations, the change of bank balance that we've had over the last couple of seasons, Engels coming in for 11, 13 odd million, whatever, Ida about 9 million, who's firmly like not number one. I know Roger says there's no number one, but he's definitely not number one, if that makes sense. And Trusty, who again cannot be considered best 11, 6 million quid to sit on the bench, which is fine by me. The more players we've got at that level in the squad, happy days, you know. But we're starting to spend proper money, you know, money that you see other teams in European and world football start to spend. And if we're looking for a player that can come in to try and push that competitive level, like we've seen in midfield before, Bernardo, Engels, Hatate, McCowan, you can see what's going on there in that department. To get that into the forward wide areas with one signing, Celtic have got to spend that kind of Engels, Ida range of money. And for me, like, if you're looking across world football, if you've got in the low to mid-teens of millions to spend on creative players, which are kind of one of the hardest things to find, you know, guys that can do something out of nothing, guys that may be good at, you know, free kicks and, you know, crosses and dribbling and all that kind of fun stuff. The best league for me is MLS. Now, you might remember, we've got Arthur Johnson from MLS already, and we were very close to signing Matthias Bogus from the MLS in the summer. So this is definitely, you know, a line of communication that's open. And for me, really, if you've got Engels level money, you can buy almost anyone you want out of MLS. And if we look at the best forwards that they've got performing in their current season, which is almost finished, so this is like a full season's worth of current form, current data on their ratings out of 100 over the last 5, the last 15 and the last 40 matches. Yes, you're not going to be able to sign probably Messi, Buanga, Luis Suarez, some of these guys. But really, you know, the MLS is a league that, for the most part, any player that's up and coming and you know, trying to get their career up and going, as it were, they all want to move to Europe, especially if they're South American. And the boy up here, Gabriel Peck, would probably cost a bucket ton of money. But this guy's a Brazilian winger who looks absolutely fantastic and is only contracted for like another 7 months or something like that. You know, this guy's not a guy that sees his future in the MLS long term. And the thing with MLS players is a lot of people are quite hesitant to take them on for the most part, because there's enough of them that I think have moved to Europe and been a success to see that it's definitely like it's a great player in MLS will be a good player in Europe for the most part, as long as they hit the right landing spot. It's probably the most important detail there. And this guy might even be out of our price range. Just might go for 20 or 30 million pounds or dollars or whatever they want to accept. But beneath him, pretty much everyone, in my opinion, is gettable. And when you're looking at, you know, bringing in an exciting attacking winger, you're looking for people that are young, hungry, affordable, can do something a little bit different. And when you're looking in the main European leagues, especially if you're looking like the Premier League and even into the Championship, if you're looking for, you know, under appreciated players like Celtic kind of tend to do, Brendan Rodgers maybe tends to do it a bit more often, you can pay a lot of money for people that don't have that little bit of stardust, that little bit of magic. And it feels like, you know, Kuhn's been a bit of a revelation, but he's the only guy in the squad that really has that little bit of magic. Daizen Maeda is putting up fantastic numbers so far this season. This could be his best year in a Celtic shirt ever, the way he's been hitting the ball in the back of the net and setting up assists. And Kuhn's obviously going to be one of the players of the season if he keeps up the way he's going, because he has that little bit of something different. But we're very much in need of more of that. You know, Yang is flattered to deceive. Palma is, you know, we don't need to go into that. But it certainly feels that in the forward areas, if we're going to bring somebody else in, that is the sort of thing that we're looking for. Yes, they need to be a good athlete, they need to be press happy, they need to be smart and do all the stuff that we need the other forwards to do. But in terms of when you're spending that level of money, that's then about getting more for your buck. And if Celtic are now going to be spending Ida to Engels kind of money on and another winger to bring, or another attacking, you know, front three player, you want them to get the best player possible. And for me, like, I would definitely want us to try and explore that MLS market a little bit more for one of these positions. Gabriel Peck would be absolutely fantastic, but they have a serious amount of talent, you know what I mean, in the attacking positions. It's all shapes and sizes. Again, some of them, not all of them, would be actual viable targets. I'd be a huge fan of Santi Rodriguez. Santi Moreno as well would be very, very good. Again, you're not going to get Messi or anyone like that, obviously, but There are so many high quality players here that do have that ability to open up doors, you know, and do something a bit different. And I'm even looking at that page there and seeing Facundo Torres, who is an absolute magic player, was really close to moving to like Arsenal or PSG. I think we're maybe linked to him as well, and it fell through. And some of these guys are dying to get to Europe, and it feels like that market just, you know, their best players go for like $14 million and stuff like that, and they're pulling their hair out. Like, how can we not get good transfer fees? And it feels like that's a market we could tap into for this sort of position in this sort of area of the pitch. But overall, I don't think there's any part of this squad that's really in dire straits or is really, you know, abject. I do have my concerns and my criticisms, of course, about how we structure the midfield and the base and whatever against Borussia Dortmund, and maybe how we'll do against Atalanta and Leipzig. We'll see how those games pan out in the fullness of time. But the overall balance, the makeup, the head count in the squad, everything feels really well rounded, a nice competitive level, and really so many of the players, I've mentioned a few of them that are standing out already, of course, but it feels like you could really look at the whole squad and imagine them all still playing a little bit better over the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of months as the season rolls on. And if they're doing great, we're not criticising them and saying that they could still be playing better. I just think that you look at them and you see they're capable of more. You know, it's really exciting. It could be a great season, and I think that's always the seed of any frustration or any negative things that come out, because you just think they could be, they're the potential to do so much more, to play even better than what they do in these more important matches that maybe we've not been as on point for. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. On screen are now some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more content like this. Hail, hail, Moon the Hoops.